Welcome to How Bizarre. How Bizarre.
Welcome. In this episode, we'll be learning about the history of werewolves. So please get comfortable, and I hope you enjoy this episode, The History of Werewolves, Origins and Early European Legends. The concept of the werewolf, or lycanthrope, has roots deep in European folklore, with the earliest references dating back to ancient Greece and Rome. The word werewolf comes from the Old English were, man, and wolf, wolf. Werewolves were typically seen as humans who could transform into wolves or wolf like creatures, either by curse, magical transformation, or voluntary shapeshifting. Werewolf legends are present from a variety of locations, including ancient Greece and Rome, medieval and early modern Europe, Slavic and Eastern European countries, Russian, Scandinavian, North American, Latin American, and South American. Let's take a look at the different werewolf legends by geographical area, ancient Greece and Rome. One of the earliest recorded stories of a werewolf like figure comes from Greek mythology. The tale of King Lycaon of Arcadia, who, after offending Zeus, was transformed into a wolf as punishment, serves as one of the foundational myths. This myth likely laid the groundwork for future werewolf legends in Western culture. Medieval and early modern Europe. During the medieval period, werewolves became associated with witches and heretics, particularly in the context of the European witch hunts. By the 16th and 17th centuries, accounts of werewolf trials, similar to witch trials, became prevalent. Many people, particularly in France and Germany, were accused of being werewolves, and numerous trials were held to expose werewolves as part of broader religious and superstitious fears. Notably, in the Alsace region of France during the 16th century, a series of werewolf trials were conducted. One of the most famous cases is that of Gilles Garnier, a Frenchman executed in 1573 for allegedly transforming into a wolf and murdering children. Similarly, the demon of the Gévaudan is often cited as one of the most famous werewolf-related events in France, where a mysterious creature allegedly killed over 100 people, with some speculating it was a supernatural werewolf. Werewolves in Slavic and Eastern European folklore. Eastern European folklore, particularly Slavic traditions, features numerous references to lycanthropy and werewolf myths. In these cultures, werewolves are often seen as cursed individuals rather than those who willingly change forms. These legends are particularly pronounced in the Balkans, Russia, and Poland. Slavic mythology. In Slavic traditions, the concept of the werewolf is closely tied to the Vlkodlak, a term used in various Slavic languages. The Vlkodlak was a man who could transform into a wolf, usually during a full moon. These creatures were believed to be evil and associated with witchcraft, and like their Western counterparts, were often hunted and killed. Russian and Eastern European legends. In Russia and the wider Eastern European region, werewolves were often linked with the supernatural and described as malicious spirits, often associated with disease or death. These creatures were sometimes thought to be the restless spirits of those who had died unnatural deaths, such as from murder or suicide. The Vlkodlak in Slavic mythology also had strong connections to themes of retribution, with some stories emphasizing that werewolves were former humans cursed due to their immoral behavior. Scandinavian and Norse influence. Norse mythology features Ulfednar, a group of warriors who were said to wear wolf pelts and were known for their ability to transform into wolves or werewolf-like creatures in battle. The Ulfednar were feared for their berserker-like rage, and their ability to shift forms was believed to imbue them with heightened strength and aggression. These warriors were linked with the Viking warrior tradition, with some sagas mentioning them as part of the Viking army's elite force. The connection between berserkers and werewolves is significant in understanding the cultural significance of werewolves in pre Christian Scandinavia. Some scholars argue that the association with wolves in these warrior tribes had symbolic meaning related to strength, ferocity, and the connection between humans and nature. The werewolf in the Americas. While the werewolf is largely rooted in European folklore, the myth traveled with settlers to the New World, where it merged with other indigenous mythologies and stories. Native American lore. Some Native American tribes have legends of shapeshifters, though they are more commonly associated with other animals, such as bears, coyotes, or other creatures, rather than specifically wolves. However, there are some references to skinwalkers, which are considered witches or shamans who can transform into wolves or other animals. These figures are found predominantly in the Navajo tradition, and while they share similarities with werewolf legends, they are distinct in terms of cultural significance and the role they play within Native American spirituality. Colonial and early American influence. In colonial America, the werewolf myth maintained a strong presence, particularly in New England. Like the rest of Europe, werewolf related folklore and witch trials persisted well into the 18th century. In the 19th century, as the United States grew, the werewolf myth began to intertwine with broader themes of horror literature. Werewolves in Latin America. Werewolf myths in Latin America are also influenced by both European traditions and indigenous beliefs. In Mexico, for instance, the hombre lobo is a legendary figure believed to transform into a wolf like creature, often as a result of a curse or supernatural powers. Mexico and Central America. The legend of the hombre lobo is particularly prevalent in rural areas. One common version of the myth suggests that the transformation is not always voluntary, and it can happen as a result of a curse, often tied to the individual's actions or familial ties. In some cases, the myth is tied to moral lessons about the dangers of pride, betrayal, or disobedience. Brazil and Argentina. In Brazil and Argentina, werewolf like creatures are often associated with rural folklore, where the idea of supernatural transformations is more widespread. For example, the lobisomem, Brazilian werewolf, can be cursed to transform after an act of violence or a breach of taboo. The creatures in these stories often reflect anxieties about rural isolation and the breakdown of social order. Modern interpretations and the werewolf in popular culture. As we move into the modern era, the werewolf myth has undergone significant transformation, especially in the realm of literature and film. The 19th century brought the first significant literary exploration of werewolves, with works like The Story of the Wolf, 1838, and The Werewolf of Paris, 1933, gaining attention. In the 20th century, werewolves became a central feature of the horror genre. The 1941 film The Wolf Man helped solidify the image of the werewolf in popular culture. A man cursed to become a ferocious wolf under the light of a full moon. These ideas of werewolves as tragic, tormented souls have continued to shape their portrayal in contemporary media, from the Twilight series to the Underworld films and TV shows like Teen Wolf. Today, werewolves continue to be an important figure in horror and fantasy fiction, reflecting themes of duality, transformation, and human nature's darker aspects. While the specific beliefs may have evolved, the core elements, transformation, violence, and the curse, remain constant. And that's it for this episode. We covered a lot of information about the history of werewolves. Thanks for staying with me until the end. Thank you for listening to this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked this episode, then stay tuned because I've got a lot more upcoming episodes on topics including cryptozoology, folklore, ethnobotany, paranormal phenomena, and much more. If those topics sound interesting to you, then please consider subscribing. Until next time, my friends.